Hey, happy Monday. Welcome back for week 2. Week 1, we killed it. We learned all about what's going to be expected of us. We did our baseline assessment, killed that as well. And we learned about prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. If you missed any of that, go back and get caught up. Go back and do it. If you did all that, you're right where you're supposed to be. So, if you're on this video, you must have found today's assignment. Up here at the top, you can see we are starting off with our science standards. Now that we know what we need to learn to be successful in science, we're going to actually learn science. So today you can see I can, so you should be able to do this by the end, explain the relationship of genes, chromosomes, and DNA, and compare the relationships to inherited characteristics. If you're already overwhelmed by all those sciencey words and you're thinking, I have no idea what that means, don't worry, you will by the end of this video. Also, if you're watching this, you should have completed your bell ringer by now. If you didn't do it, go back and do it. It's just a multiple choice question. Also a reminder, it doesn't have to be correct for you to get the credit. It just has to be completed. So give it your best guess if you are not sure. If you're not sure. All right. So we are going to hop into our guided notes. Remember, we learned this last week. As I'm typing in the questions, you should be typing away. You should be filling in the same blanks that I'm filling out as well. All right, so what are we talking about today? Today, like I said earlier, we're going to dive into DNA. We may have heard about DNA before. Kendrick Lamar has the song DNA. Or you may have even watched The Maury Show where they do DNA tests. And we're actually going to watch a quick clip of one right now.
When it comes to 2-year-old Tamia, Andre, you are not.
Okay, so we've seen this before. They give a DNA test to see whether or not somebody is somebody's father. What are they even looking for? What is a DNA test? So a DNA test is when they're looking at your specific DNA. Another term for DNA, or what DNA stands for, is, get ready for this, it's big, deoxyribonucleic acid. That is going to be probably the longest word we hit all year, and it's the first word I'm giving you. Can you believe it? Deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA. So your DNA is located in the nucleus of eukaryotic cells. And remember, we have eukaryotic cells. So the nucleus holds all of your information. It's like the brain of the cell. That's the answer to your bell ringer, by the way. So what is DNA? So your DNA determines your specific physical characteristics. So your eye color, your hair color, your skin color, your height, any of your specific physical characteristics that are unique to you, and they are passed down from your parents. So these are what are known as traits. So for example here, we've got Will and Jaden Smith. You can see, since they're related, Jaden got his DNA from Will, so they look the same. If you put me up against Will Smith, you can tell he's not my dad because we have some pretty obvious things that are different between the two of us. So your DNA is passed down from your parents. Your DNA also has a very specific shape called a double helix. So this right here is a GIF of your DNA. It looks kind of like a ladder if you took a ladder and twisted it. So you've got the edges and it's got like almost the steps of a ladder going up. It's called a double helix is the shape. So, like we said, your DNA is in your nucleus, but it isn't just flopping around all willy-nilly in there. It's in a specific shape and a specific place. So your DNA is wrapped up into an X-shaped structure called a chromosome. So if you look right here, this X shape right here, that is your chromosome. So what happens is your DNA, see all this little squiggly stuff? It tightly wraps up and forms this X shape. Now, sometimes you might see a chromosome not pictured as an X. It might just be a straight line, but you'll be able to tell that it's a chromosome because it has all of that DNA wrapped up nice and tight. So your DNA is shaped into a chromosome inside your nucleus. Now, inside your nucleus, you don't just have one chromosome, you have 23 pairs of chromosomes. So each chromosome, if you see in the picture here, has a little buddy. They go pair by pair. So that gives us 46 total. Yep, that adds up. I'm not great at math. 23 pairs makes 24, or 23 pairs makes 46 total. Gotcha. So you can see right here in this picture, this is your nucleus. You've got all of your chromosomes chilling in there, and here's pair 1, here's pair 2, here's pair 3, and so on. Each pair is for a specific trait. So maybe one is for your hair color, maybe one's for your eye color. Who knows? What we do know is your 23rd pair is what actually determines your sex. So if you're a boy or a girl. All right. Moving on. Let's break it down even further. Zooming back into DNA. We know what it looks like as a chromosome, but zooming in on DNA. It's made of smaller units called, it lets me type, nucleotides. That's nucleotides. We're learning some big fancy science words today because we're smart like that. All right, so the nucleotides are like the steps of the ladder on your DNA. Now, there are 4 different types of nucleotides. There is adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine. Whoa, let me slow that down because those are 4 interesting words. Adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine. We're going so fast. It's easiest if we just remember them as A, T, C, and G. A, T, C, and G. Those are the 4 different nucleotides that are going to make up the steps of the ladder of DNA. Now, what happens is they will meet in the middle. So like if you see this picture right here, I keep moving myself all over the place. It's probably distracting. But if you look right here at the picture, it looks like a ladder, and the steps, or the nucleotides, only reach out about halfway. They have to reach out to another nucleotide to connect the ends of the ladder, or the DNA. Now, they won't just reach out and grab everybody. They're kind of picky. So A, or adenine, is best friends with T. A, or adenine, will only latch on to thymine, or T. It doesn't want to mess with anybody else. It won't even mess with another A. It will only match with a T. So if you look at this picture again, adenine is in red. Notice that it's connected to a thymine, or a T, in yellow. It's not connected to a G. It's not connected to a C. It's not connected to another A. A and T. So we have C. Now what happened here? Is best friends with, let me fix it. Perfect. C is best friends with G. So same exact thing. C is only going to mess with G. C is not going to mess with T. They've got beef. They're not going to even look at each other. You can look at this picture too to help see who matches with who. T with A, C with G. Now these pairs, once they're together and paired up, they're often known as base pairs. Easy peasy. One more blank on this slide. The backbone of DNA, that's the edge. That's like this blue, it kind of looks like a ribbon. That's the backbone. The backbone of your DNA is made up of sugars and phosphates. That's all you need to know. Phosphates, you may have heard about phosphates before. It's an element on the periodic table. I believe you went over that with Ms. Malhotra. Some of you guys put that you didn't like talking about the periodic table in your student survey. This is almost as in depth about the periodic table as we're going to get this year, so no stress. Just know the backbone is made up of sugars and it's made up of phosphates. Last slide, and then we'll go back over it because I am throwing information at you today. We are going to break it down further one more time. So we have this long string of DNA. Each long strand of DNA has different sections. So those sections are called genes, not like jeans that you wear, this kind of genes, G-E-N-E-S. So every gene is in charge of making a protein in your body. We've probably heard of protein before. Some people drink protein shakes. That's how you get jacked. Proteins are what directly determine your traits. Let me back up here. So on your DNA, you have specific sections, like in this picture right here. Those sections are called genes, and each gene is in charge of making a protein. It's like it has a specific recipe to make a specific protein. So if I have a gene that says I need to make a protein for blue eyes, it's going to make a protein for blue eyes. And that protein is what's going to actually make your eyes blue or brown or green or whatever eye color you have. Here is another picture that I think is really helpful of explaining this. Here is our chromosome, and on the DNA, we have one specific section or gene. That gene is going to make one protein that makes something specific, like in this case, pigment, which is a fancy way of saying color. And it knows I need to make purple color for a flower. Now, how do they know specifics? Like, how does it know brown eyes or black hair or whatever? The protein that each gene will make is determined by the order of the nucleotides. So right here we see this gene has G and C, and then T and A and T. The order of the letters is the specific recipe. The order tells your body what protein to make. Whew! We got through that, guys. Let's recap real quick, and then I'm going to let you be done for the day. Can you believe it? So again, in our body there's that word deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA, and it's located in the nucleus of our cells, in the nucleus. Your DNA has all of your genetic or genes, genetic information to help determine your physical traits, what you look like. It is in a specific shape called a double helix. It's like a ladder if you just twist it up. Your DNA is tightly wrapped up to form an X-shaped little thing called a chromosome. In your nucleus, you have 23 pairs of chromosomes, which makes 46 total. On your DNA, making up your DNA, are the little, what we would call like the steps of the ladder, nucleotides. The 4 nucleotides are adenine, or A, cytosine, C, guanine, G, or thymine, T. A will only match up with T, C will only match up with G, and that's what makes base pairs. The backbone, or the outside of the DNA, is made up of sugars and phosphates. Last but not least, small specific sections of your DNA is called genes. Each gene is in charge of making one specific protein in your body, and your protein is what tells your body to have certain specific traits. And of course, last but not least, what protein your gene makes is determined by the order of the nucleotides, or the A's and G's and C's and T's. I think that was all of them. All right, once you have filled out these notes, and again, make sure you did your bell ringer, you are done for the day. Just make sure every note is filled out, hit turn in so I can see that you did it, and tomorrow we'll actually do some work with what we learned today. Let me know if you have any questions.